Hi, I'm Marilyn Dishman. My father, Oscar Dishman Jr., was one of the first black horse trainers in America. And he won like the Ohio Derby, not the Kentucky Derby, the Florida Derby, the Illinois Derby. We had a horse that ran third against Secretariat in Canada. And he had a horse that entered the Kentucky Derby, which is the thing all horse people want. But the horse mysteriously died about a month before the race went off. And it was black owned. We had a black jockey and a black trainer. First time since Reconstruction.
You know, when you were coming up, what about that history were you aware of? And you know, how much of it did you appreciate as you were coming up?
Growing up? Well, I grew up with the horses. My father taught us work ethics, let's say. At 5, I was polishing the reins and sometimes the saddles and things like that, just to get used to working with the horses. And then I think when I was about 12 or 13, I started hot walking, working on the track in River Downs, Latonia. I didn't work at Keeneland because normally when Keeneland had a meet, it was during school time, and we had to go to school because education was very important to both of my parents. Part of that was we desegregated the schools in Scott County, Kentucky back in 1956, before the federal government even did anything about desegregation. So that sort of implanted in me the will to do as much as I could do, that, you know, there weren't limits on how much I could do, and I appreciate that, you know.
You know, I often hear about how much African Americans were involved in horse racing many years ago.
Yes.
And how much that has changed.
Yes.
You know, over the years. Talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
And why?
Why? In the community where I was born and grew up, and my father was born too, New Zion, which is outside of Lexington, Kentucky. My great-grandfather was a horseman. My grandfather was a horseman. So it was only natural, I think, for my father to be a horseman. Now, they didn't train like Daddy. They were more or less grooms. They worked with the horses and keeping them clean and fed and so forth like that. And they had to work the Chitlin circuit, which was Churchill Downs. It's Turfway Park now, but it used to be Latonia and Keeneland. And everything was separated. We couldn't even eat in the kitchen and the dining halls that they did. They had a side for black people. It wasn't even kept clean. And you'd think by being a kitchen, it would at least have been kept clean, but it wasn't. And this wasn't until the 60s that they quit segregating us and stuff. My father had a love for horses that was so deep. When he had his first major heart attack, I think sometime in the early 80s, 90s maybe, he was supposed to quit training. And he tried. He stayed away from the track maybe 3 months. And then he'd tell Mom, I'm going out to just look at the horses. Then it's like, I'm going out to check on the horses. Then he just quit fibbing and just, just let it all go. So then he had another major heart attack about a month later. He had to have bypass surgery. So he did stay home a little bit longer. No, he stayed home a month the first time and 3 months the second time. Then when he had another one, he actually retired in 1993. And so nobody believed him. But when he started selling his tack and saddles and stuff, it's like, he really is retired. And he did, yeah.
Well, talk a little bit about the recognition that for today, and why.
Why? Well, Barry's father, they're all from Georgetown, Kentucky, which is a part of Scott County. They knew my father, and they followed his race industry. And so they knew of the accomplishments he made. I mean, there are not too many people, whether you're black, white, or blue, that can say that they had a horse that ran third against Secretariat. I mean, because Secretariat is one of the greatest horses in the world. And to accomplish that is saying a lot. Plus, like I say, he won the Michigan Mile, the Illinois Derby, the Ohio Derby, the Florida Derby. Just a whole bunch of prestigious races with a lot of money. We had one horse that made over $311,000 in one summer. And then We had horses like Silver Series, Golden Dawn, his half brother, Don DeGaulle. Silver Series is the one who ran against Secretariat and so forth. He struggled. I remember, especially at Keeneland, his home. If Daddy took 20 horses to Keeneland, he might get 10 stalls. And he'd ask, what am I supposed to do with the other 10 horses? It's like, whatever you want to do with them. You know, that kind of crap. If our horse got bumped in a race, instead of the other horse getting disqualified, we got disqualified. Whereas in Arlington Park in Illinois, or the Aqueduct in New York, if our horse bumped the other horse, what you did is if you won the race, you get knocked back to second, but not disqualified. But that's the kind of racism that he caught right here at home. So it's wonderful being recognized here where it all started in Kentucky, you know. He's been recognized before. There are a lot of his things, and some of my Uncle Pix, who's here from Louisville, he was a Derby jockey at the turn of the century, right here from Louisville. And the stuff is here at the Derby Museum and at the Kentucky History Museum in Frankfort and at the Kentucky Horse Park in Lexington. So I have a lot to feel proud when it comes to my family. Plus, Barry wanted me to get involved because my first husband was Jim Kelly, the karate expert and the actor. Yeah, and that was his daughter you saw. She's the one that's going to help me with my smart TV.
Wow.
Okay, so that's about it.
I just have one more question about going forward. You know, how can this inspire other people to get involved, maybe with the horse racing business and just horse racing and taking care of horses in general?
Well, I have a friend who just got killed about a couple of months ago. Jimmy, not Jimmy Wingfield, I almost said. This is terrible. I'm drawing a blank. Jimmy was a jockey, and he did some horses, ran some horses for Daddy. But he mainly rode in New York most of the time, and Daddy ran wherever the race, you know, fit the horse. But he did it, and a friend of mine from church in Lexington has a class set up at our community college, teaching kids how to groom the horses and sort of push them into training as well as riding horses, because some people are afraid of them. Some people think that they're dirty, they don't want to get their hands dirty, and I'm not sure what the other reasons are. Maybe it's not glamorous enough for them. But we are trying. Yeah.